Okay. All right, so we're going to start by doing our first demonstration for our assignment number 3 on the GenevaWheel, which is found on page 1137, right at the top here. So, so how we're going to approach this is we're going to start with a solid circle. Okay. We're going to add the boss, and then we're going to do the cutouts here. Now the cutouts, we're going to draw one cutout, and then we're going to do a circular pattern around. And then we're going to do the circular cutouts that we see here and do that very same thing. We're going to do a circular pattern to then duplicate them going around. So we're going to be practicing that circular pattern function. And then lastly, we're going to be putting the bore through, and then we've got a keyway that we're going to be adding. Okay. So I'm going to go over to SolidWorks. The units that we're going to be using here are going to be English. So make sure that you open up and that you have your inch, pounds, and seconds so that you're in like our English units. I'm going to start with an extrude boss base. I'm going to select my front plane. And then I'm going to do a circle. And this is just the outside circle as like a solid disc. Okay. And I'm going to smart dimension that diameter. And that diameter is a diameter of 8. Okay. Diameter of 8. Okay, so fully defined because we have its origin, its axis at the origin. I'm going to exit. And in this case, the thickness here is 0.5. So 0.5 blind depth. Okay. All right. I'm going to call this rename outside diameter. There we go. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to add the boss that's on the left-hand side. So I am going to extrude boss base, grab that diameter. See right there. Oh, see, I wasn't quite on the center here. So I'm going to select it and just hit my delete key. And I'm going to start again with a circle, make sure I'm on the origin with my axis. And then this outside diameter is 2.5. There we go. Okay, so that's on that surface. And now I'm going to extrude it in that direction. So I'm going to exit. And that's going to be a depth of also 0.5. There we go. Okay, so there is my boss. It's literally a boss. So let's rename 2.5 inch diameter boss. Okay. Since it's the only fillet that's there, I'm going to put it in right away since we're here. So on the feature tab here, I'm going to do fillet. I'm going to grab the edge. Make sure you're on the edge. Make sure it says edge over here and not like a surface. And then I need my radius to be 0.25. There we go. It's a pretty generous radius. It looks good. And I'm going to say, okay. Okay. You don't have to rename fillets if you don't want to. I'm going to do a file, save as, module 3. And this is the Geneva wheel. There we go. Okay.
What was the edge, bro?
Where the edge of the circle or the disc and that boss are, that's the inside edge there. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, so I have a solid disc right now. The first cutout I'm going to do is like the slot cutout right here. And I'm going to start with the one that is vertical, okay? And our pattern then is going to be a circular pattern going around, and we're going to have a total of 6 instances. But we're going to draw one of these completely first, okay? So we are going to go back to SolidWorks over here. And it really doesn't matter which side we do it on. So I'm just going to do it on this surface right here. This is going to be an extrude cut because I'm going to be taking material away on this surface. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to start by drawing a circle in line with my center, right about here. Okay, there's my circle. Okay, smart dimension, this is going to be the width of that slot. If I go underneath here, the width of the slot is down here, but it's the same for all of them. So that diameter that I just drew for the rounded end is going to be 0.5 diameter. Okay. Now, I need to add a relation so that the axis of that hole and the origin are vertical to one another, so that they stay vertical. I'm going to hit OK. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my bolt hole circle so I know how far from that origin it needs to be. So I'm going to start by adding another circle to my sketch. Its origin is going to be, whoopsie, start over. Circle, its origin is going to be, I'm sorry, its axis center is going to be at the origin, and then its radius is going to end at the center of the circle we just drew. Okay. Now I'm going to reselect that circle, and I'm going to put under options here for construction, and it's going to become a center line. Okay. Now we're not fully defined yet, which is totally fine. So what I need to do now is I need to dimension the diameter of my bolt circle. Okay. And that bolt circle is 4 inches. Now, my hole is fully defined, but I'm not doing a hole, I'm doing a slot. So I'm going to now draw vertical lines going straight up from the quadrant of those holes, or of that circle. So I'm going to down like this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oopsie. This. Normal too. Okay. So now I'm going to add lines. I'm going to do a line, and I'm going to activate not where it crosses the line here, but where the quadrant is. So it's going to light up the quadrant. So I want to be on the quadrant, and then it's going to be vertical to the top of the circle. Okay, I'm going to do that on the other side now. I'm going to zoom in here, line, quadrant, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to go up to the top. Okay, so I have this so far, and I'm going to trim away this inside portion of that circle. I'm going to do trim and get rid of that. Okay, now I have to have an enclosed area in order to do my extrude cut. And I don't have it. I don't have it closed at the top here. So I've got this vertical line on the left, vertical line on the right, and the radius on the bottom. And I am fully defined, but it's not a closed area. So to close that area, I am going to select on this outside circle. I am going to convert it so it comes into my current sketch, because this was actually the outside diameter 4 sketches ago. All right. And I'm going to do convert entities. And now that sketch, that edge became black, but I don't need that whole edge. I just need this portion here on the inside between the lines. So I'm going to trim away that outside part that I don't need. And all that's going to be left now is going to be just this part of that radius. Do you see that? So I had to convert the whole outside diameter, but then I trimmed away most of that outside diameter and just what was left here. Now I have an enclosed area that I can do my extrude cut. Okay.
Trimming the top of this circle.
Not the top, just the outsides of it. Yep, the outsides of it. So only this is here, yeah.
But where you started with the circle, closer to the center, down.
Yep. So it's a slot. I did trim that away. Yep. Yep, that one's trimmed away too. All right, so now I'm ready to exit my sketch. I'm fully defined. Okay. So I'm going to exit my sketch. I went in underneath an extrude cut. Now it's remembering probably from a previous thing that I was on midpoint, but I want to do through all and just make sure that it's going in the right direction, which it is. Okay. And I'm going to hit OK. And there is my first cut. Okay. So I'm going to call it file, rename, and this is 0.5 wide slot. Okay. Now that's one. So if we go back to our drawing, we drew this one right here. Now what we want to do, instead of drawing 5 more times that same slot, we're going to use the circular pattern function to now evenly space it around that center. Okay, and we want it to be evenly spaced for a total of 6 instances. So I'm going to go back to SolidWorks. I need to select my slot that I just drew at the feature level. So make sure you're on the feature tab here. And then we're going to go underneath, arrow down underneath the linear pattern. We're going to go to circular pattern. Okay. And then now we need to know what's the center line that we're going to be going about. We don't see one here. So we need to show it. So we know it's going to be the center line of the disc and the boss that we created. So we're going to go up to our little eyeball. We're going to arrow down, and on the right-hand side, the second one from the top, view temporary axes. Click on that. Then we're going to click outside here, and we should, if you don't see it, you might have to zoom in here a little bit, but there's my center. Okay. So in this blue box here, we want to click, and that's going to be the axis that we're going to go around. Okay. Now we have to check how many instances there are. From the last time we did it earlier this evening, I had 5 instances, but in this case, I want 6. So I'm going to do 6, enter, and now it should give me a preview, and that looks good. Okay, so evenly spaced around 360 degrees. So make sure that evenly spaced is checked here. And then I can just hit OK, and now my circular pattern is in there. Okay. Now at this point, good idea to do a quick save, because again, always want to save when you don't want to do what you've already done. All right. So looking at our drawing, we've got our 5 slots in, we have our boss with our radius in, we have our thickness of our plate here. We now need to add these outside radiuses, these radiuses of 1.5. Okay. So if we look at the dimensions we're given, and the one that I'm going to create is the one that's on the horizontal line right here. I'm going to create this one right over here. Its axis, or its center of that radius is going to start at 4.5 radius from the center. And then this is going to be the radius of 1.5 that's going to be created. So let's use those dimensions to construct that here. So we're going to do another extrude cut on this top surface right here. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we are going to draw a line first from the center, horizontal. Okay. And I'm going to go kind of far outish. Okay. All right. And I'm going to reselect that, and that's going to be for construction, right? Then I'm going to draw a diameter. Origin on the center, and it's going to be like out here-ish. Okay. And then we're going to reselect on that, and we're going to say for construction. Right. Now, this diameter right here, I need to add a dimension to. I'm going to smart dimension that diameter. This is like my bolt hole circle, if you would, but for that circular cutout. It says it's on a diameter, but my radius is 4.5, so my diameter is going to be 9. So that's where it intersects. This now, the intersection of this line and this bolt holes, or this circle, is going to be the center. It's that center point right there for my radius of 1.5. Okay, that's what I just created, was that center right there. Okay. I constructed it basically. So going back over here, I'm now going to draw a regular circle. Its center is going to be at the intersection of that circle and that line. I'm going to draw it like here. Okay. I'm going to smart dimension that diameter. And since it's a radius of 1.5, its diameter is going to be 3. Now what I want to do is I want to trim away the parts of the circle I don't need. And then I want to add in the part of the arc to close it up. So I'm going to trim away this part of the circle there, here, but oopsie, Ooh, undo. I'm gonna leave that one in there. I actually have to add in this radius first. I forgot. So we're going to click on this radius right here. Okay, so I'm on the outside edge here, that radius. I'm gonna click on that and I'm gonna convert that to bring it into my sketch. Now I can go back to trimming. So I'm gonna trim away this part and this part. And then of that radius that I just did, I wanna do this outside portion here and the outside portion there. Okay, and then now you should only have this part left and that inside radius, these two parts. Now this is a closed area that I can do my extrude cut with. Okay. So now I'm gonna hit exit because I'm fully defined. And now when I rotate this a little bit, I just want to make sure that my cut is going in the right direction. Through all is totally fine, or up to next will do it as well. And then I'm going to say, okay. And now I have that circular cutout. So I'm going to rename this cut extrude to circular cut. And it doesn't hurt to do a quick save. We should be right about there.
Would you be able to do that stuff again?
Okay, so now that we have that circular cut in place, the next thing we're gonna do is just like we did for the slots, we are going to do a circular pattern around that same center, and it's gonna have that same 6 instances. So it's probably gonna remember most of everything that we had. So we're gonna go back to SolidWorks. You have to select your circular cut here as the feature that we're going to do the circular pattern on. Go underneath linear pattern, arrow down, circular pattern. And now it wants to know, okay, select the axis you want to go around. That axis should still be on unless you turned it off, but you might have to go in if it's hard to see. It's in blue here. Select the axis that you're going to go around. And now it's going to give us a preview. It remembers 6 from the last time we were in there, but if you need to change that, go ahead and make sure it's equally spaced as well. And then you're going to hit OK. And then now you have your cuts on that circular pattern. And again, doesn't hurt to do a quick save. All right. So now that we have the outside of the Geneva wheel in place, now we're going to do that through hole and the keyway. Okay. So we're going to go back to SolidWorks. I'm going to do an extrude cut. What was that? I believe so, yeah. Yeah. Extrude cut on that surface. I'm going to first put my circle in place. And I'm going to smart dimension that. And that is a diameter of 1.5. Okay, so the hole is in here. Now what I want to add to it is the keyway on the top. So let's look at the keyway. The keyway is dimensioned here as 0.36 by 0.2. So 0.36 is going to be the width, okay, how wide that is across. And then 0.2 is going to go from this point where that intersection is to the top of the keyway. Okay, so let's get that in place. So now we're going to add a rectangle. Okay, I'm simply going to put a rectangle right about here, left, upper left, and then lower right, something like that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to dimension it. So I know smart dimension wise, the width, the overall width is going to be 0.36. Okay. I know also that the height from that edge to the top is going to be 0.2, but because I don't have an end point here. What I need to do is I need to trim away the parts of that rectangle that I don't want so that they cross over our radius here. So I'm gonna hit OK on my dimension here. I'm gonna trim away the parts of that rectangle and the inside of the circle that I don't need. So all of that I'm gonna get rid of. Okay. And then now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our smart dimension from the top to, I could actually do it on the vertical. From here to here, this needs to be 0.2. Okay, so now we have that dimension, but it's not fully defined yet because I do need to define that this 0.6 needs to be evenly distributed on either side of the origin. I'm not tied to my origin yet. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to add a smart dimension from the origin to one side, and that is gonna be 0.18, half of 0.36. And once I add that dimension in, again, centering it from side to side, now I'm fully defined. Okay, so these are the three dimensions, 0.18, 0.36, and the 0.18 comes from the origin, and then the 0.2 here. Okay, let's see. So now that I'm fully defined, I can hit exit. I went in underneath an extrude cut, and it's set to through all. So you'll notice that it is going through all. And now I have it all the way through. So I'm going to do rename bore and key way. Now I can do a quick save, but I also want to make sure I expand out each one of my sketches. Okay, so that I can see that each one of your features are fully defined. I'm going to scooch this up in the upper left-hand corner. Now, even though the instructions do not identify a material, for our assignment, we have a material. So going back to our assignment, the Geneva wheel needs to have the material of steel, AISI 1020, and then you're going to do your mass properties dialog box, just like we have been for previous assignments. So going back to SolidWorks here, we're going to go to the material right now, not specified, left click it, then right click it, edit material, and we're going to go to steel AISI. Why did I forget what it was? Was it the 1020? Thank you. 1020. Just the regular, okay? Because I didn't have the extra on there. So just 1020. And then make sure that you're in English units here. I have seen some come in where these were on SI units and everything else was in English. So then things don't quite line up. So make sure that they're consistent with the units that your part is drawn in. Just hit apply here, and then you can close this window. That sets the material now of our part. I'm going to scooch this so I can see my key going through. And then I'm going to go to evaluate mass properties. And now make sure your dialog box is up there. And then I want to make sure that I can see the mass, which is actually the weight, and the volume. Okay, so make sure that this is up. And then you're going to do your screen snip. In my case, Windows Shift S, or you can use that little app. Make sure you get the full design tree with the expanded sketches and the mass properties so that I know that you did everything correctly. If these line up with what I know the answer is, then I know that you created everything appropriately and that you did everything correctly. So that's what's kind of nice about that. I'm going to do one last save on this, and then you'll be ready to, that can be, you know, one that you have the screenshot is what you're going to be adding for the assignment. Share, why is this not? There we go. There's my